Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. If you are returning, welcome back. If it's your first time tuning in, you are very welcome. For those of you who don't know, my name's Rich and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, and we can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we put out 3 written articles a day in the morning, lunchtime, and in the evening. Here in the UK, these take the form of race reviews, race previews, throwbacks, livery reveals, birthdays, breaking news, and anything we can shake a stick at, really. Anything that's going on in the world of motorsport, we try and cover it as best we can. From F1 to rallying, IndyCar to touring cars, bikes, and again, anything that takes the fancy, really, and anything that's going on in the world. So do come along, come and give us a follow. Search for the Hard Compound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. And you'll find us. Come along and join the fun. We're here to spread a love of motorsport. And we also do that through live interviews, in case you hadn't noticed. These, just like this one, are streamed on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter simultaneously. They're also saved in the video section on Facebook and in the live section on YouTube. We've done well over 100 of these. We've had some fantastic guests. I'm not going to name them all. You'd be glad to know. But we've been very lucky to speak with a lot of people from across the motorsport spectrum. We've spoken with legends such as Mr. Mario Andretti and Mr. Jackie X, Hans Stuck, Chip Ganassi, Malcolm Wilson, Petter Solberg, touring car legends past and present, Le Mans winners. And we've spoken with some up and coming racers as well, as I said, from all the way across the motorsport spectrum. So do go and check them out in the video section on Facebook and the live section on YouTube. But don't do it just yet. We've got a great guest joining us right now. We've had to rearrange this one because I was feeling unwell. So my apologies for that. And thank you to our guest for being so accommodating. We're going to bring her in right now. She's going around the UK rally scene. And we're here to give her some promotion and promote British rallying because we need it back. We need it back in the mainstream. So we're going to hear her story and her plans for the future. So do join me in extending a very warm welcome to Ashleigh Morris.
Hi there. Thanks for
Here
having
we
me.
are. No, thank you very much for coming on. And once again, very sorry we had to postpone before. I was absolutely in no fit state to have to sit anywhere for more than 10 minutes. So thank you very much for waiting. But yeah, how's everything going? Obviously, we've got the bit of time this evening to talk about motorsport. So thanks very much for coming on. And how's it all going so far?
Yeah, it's going really well, thank you. I've had a couple of events so far this year. So I've started off competing in the Pro Tire Asphalt Championship. So I've done Northwest stages so far, and then just a couple of weeks ago, just back from the Manx on the Isle of Man.
Yeah, which something I was going to talk to off air, but we had to get started. But we are going to come to that because I know that was a big bucket list item of yours, wasn't it?
Massively, yeah.
Yeah, and racing on the Isle of Man, whichever form it takes, is very, very cool. And I used to love watching the Manx Rally when I was young. So yeah, looking forward to hearing about that. Folks, if you want to put some questions and comments in the comment section, whichever platform you are tuning in on, please do. If the technology is working, we'll see them in real time and we'll try and work them in. So I guess a good place to start is right back at the start. Where did your interest in motorsport come from, and then specifically into the world of rallying?
Well, I always loved motorsport, but it was more Formula One when I was a kid. My dad used to always watch it. So from when I was quite little, I always watched F1 and was a huge fan. I didn't really know much about rallying, to be honest. My uncle did a bit of rallying, but again, it wasn't something I'd really been going along to or anything. And then it wasn't until I was a teenager, my dad had a friend who did a bit of rallying, and he was testing his rally car up at Knockhill. And I'd stopped off there with my parents, and my dad said, "Oh, do you want a shot in a passenger ride in the rally car?" And I thought, yeah, why not? So I got in, had a passenger ride. This story goes that my mum then appeared and asked where I was, and hasn't, didn't speak to my dad for a long time afterwards because she found out I was out in the rally car. But yeah, it was just an amazing experience, and I just thought, oh yeah, this is something I really want to do. I didn't know where to start really, but my dad's friend pointed me in the right direction to sit my bars test, which is what you need to get started in rallying. So I did that up at Knockhill, which was only about 15 minutes from where I grew up. So I went to Knockhill. I did my full bars test, which consists of a theory part and a driving part. So much like your normal road driving test, really, you've got the two parts to it. And that gave me a full license so I could either drive or co-drive.
Right. And so I kind of love the fact that your mum didn't know and you were kind of just pushed into the car seat. Not pushed in, but I was just something that popped into my head there was when you were asked about having like a ride in the passenger seat, did you think that can't be that bad? And then did it kind of open your eyes when you were in there? Were you kind of scared, or did you think,
I
oh, I
don't
want to
think I
do
was
this?
scared. I think I just loved it and was like, wow, this is like the adrenaline, and like I said, it's not something I'd thought about before, even though I always liked cars and was interested in racing. But it was just a totally different experience, actually being in a rally car and going sideways. And yeah, it was just something I thought, oh, I really want to do this.
Fantastic. And things once you get that adrenaline rush, it doesn't ever go, does it? It kind of stays there. It just leaves you wanting a bit more. And obviously that's why you went through the processes that you did at Knockhill. I was going to say about Knockhill, there's some very, very good people at Knockhill. We've spoken with a
Yeah.
lot of, with like Rory Butcher's family and Gordon Shedden's family and Joe Tanner's doing all the helmet design and stuff up there and all
Yeah.
the people there. And it's a fantastic place to go racing, isn't it? If you haven't been, fully recommend it because it is superb, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing circuit.
Yeah, very lovely, and you get a lovely view over the bridges down towards Edinburgh, which is
If
beautiful.
the weather's right.
Yeah, if on the odd occasion you can see that far, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there. I was up last up there 2 years ago. I think I was coming back down from Perth, where I'd been for a few days, and popped in to see Duncan Vincent at Knockhill.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a bit busy, which is fine. But there was a bikes track day there, and it was raining sideways, and it was about -4 in April. And these guys were out on bikes. I was thinking, you guys are crazy, but it is beautiful. It's a beautiful place to
Yeah.
go racing. So obviously you've done your bars and everything like that. Did you initially want to start out as a driver, or did you think it was wise to go down the co-driver route, or how did all that come about?
So I always wanted to drive. That was always my intention from the start, which is why I just sat the full bars test. But at that point, I was, like I said, in my teens, just at uni, and didn't have the budget to do any driving, and it wasn't something my parents wanted to overly encourage. So I started out in the co-driver's seat, which actually, in hindsight, I think is a really good thing to do. So I think it's really helpful. You're such a team in rallying, and I think having experience from both sides of the car is actually really helpful. And it just helped me learn because, like I said, I wasn't brought up with rallying, so it just helped me learn how it works because I was sitting in with some experienced drivers. I was only doing single venue rallies, but I did a few up in Scotland at venues like Crail, Ingliston, Knockhill, and it just got me used to yeah, all the different intricacies of rallies, reading the maps, getting used to the car moving around, that kind of thing, before I actually went into the driver's seat myself.
Okay, so just being used to the car moving and how it all goes together. And I've always wondered how on. I mean, I know there's shorthand notes that that co-drivers do, but when you're bouncing around all over the place and sliding sideways and not looking where you're going, that's the thing that I can't get my head around. I mean, how? I mean, you obviously learn to to read your notes and everything, but how do you not get absolutely terrified when you're not looking where you're going? Because I would be absolutely petrified. I need to know where I'm going.
I think it's about having faith in the person. Like I said, it's all about teamwork. So you have faith in that person. And, it's kind of out with your control as long as you're doing your job to the best of your ability as a co-driver. That's the best you can do, really.
Yeah, case of what will be, and
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
as you say, trust the person holding the wheel. Um, I did see when I was doing the research initially on your website that you've co-driven in some very cool cars. You've been in the Mark II Escort, the Metro 6R4, and the Subaru Impreza, which were three of the most legendary rally cars there have ever been, as well as a Darien T9, which I had to Google. But I'll hold my hand up. But there's some very, very cool cars. Did you have a favourite to go around a rally stage in, whichever rally stage it was?
It's a really hard one to be honest,
Yeah,
because like the 6R4 and the Mark II Escort and Subaru, they're such classic rally cars. So it's just massive, like ticking a box to get to go in any of those cars. Never mind to actually compete in them. But then the Darien, absolutely mind blown the first time I got in that, just the outright speed of those things. And then obviously laterally, I've been sitting in with Ollie O'Donovan in the R5. So real modern rally car now. So other than a WRC car, that's the sort of top equipment you're going to get now. And just really not just the acceleration with the R5s, it's the handling, it's the braking. So yeah, a lot of very different but pretty special cars I've been lucky enough to sit in.
yeah, fantastic. The first time I saw the Darien T9, I instantly had the same thought when I first saw the Lancia Stratos all those years ago. I thought that shouldn't be rallying. There's no way that should be going sideways. But it's fabulous. But no, it's very cool that you've been in so many great cars as a co-driver. When did you first kind of think, right, I'm ready. I'm ready to take the wheel, and like when were you able to? Was it a budget situation or?
Yeah, because I was at uni, it just didn't really have the option to do it. And then at that point, I'd already moved down south, which is where I live now. And I didn't know anyone in rallying down here. So whereas when I'd started out, at least, my uncle was rallying, my dad's friend, I got to know some people there. Down here, I was kind of like, I want to go rallying, but I don't know anyone. I don't have a rally car. I don't have a van, a trailer, anywhere to keep it. I don't have any of those things. So eventually what I did was, resorted to Google as you tend to do with these things, and looked to see if there was a way of hiring a car to start out with. And I came across John Goff from Rally Cars for Hire, and they were offering, really sort of entry level rally cars that you can hire out for an event, for a season. It's, arrive and drive package. So, they provide everything. They run the car for you. They provided me with a co-driver, everything. So yeah, for me, that was how I started out. So that was July 2016, so nearly 8 years ago now. And my first event was the Enville Stages at Anglesey Circuit. So I'd never been to Anglesey before, but it was actually a really good one to do for my first rally, and it's one of my favourite circuits now. It's an amazing place.
That's fantastic. It sounds like the perfect way to go rallying. Everything's kind of there for you, and you can go and give it a crack. And obviously, you'd had the experience of being a co-driver, but then going all the way out to Anglesey, which is a long way from anywhere, isn't it? It's a long way to go, and if people haven't been there, it's a lovely circuit, but it's open to the elements, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
That must have been part of the not the difficulty, but part of the learning curve for your first event, I guess. Was it?
Yeah, definitely. I can't really remember why I picked that one to be honest, but I think I was just looking at the events they had available, and I wanted to start on a sort of single venue circuit type rally, not throw myself right in at the deep end with a forest rally or something. And that came up. They had a couple of other cars out, and it just seemed to make sense. So I drove the car once down at John's sort of yard. They've got an airfield out the back before the event, and then went and did the event. Yeah.
Just once.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That is in at the deep end, isn't it? And I mean, I'm going to assume that you loved it from the off, just competing in, and being able to drive and just it being in your control, I guess. I guess
Yeah.
that was nice to have, having been the co-driver.
Yeah, definitely. But I was very nervous. So while I was excited, I actually didn't tell many people I was going to do it. Because I was like, what if I do it and I'm really, really rubbish? Or, I crash within meters. So I was like, I'm just not going to tell people. And then there's no expectation. So I sort of just turned up at Anglesey on my own, no one with me, and was like, right, here I am, I'm going to go rallying.
Completely on your own. Wow.
Yeah.
That, I think that's quite a good way to do it. Because if you start telling people, they're going to go, "Oh, do let us know how you get on, and you go, oh
Yeah,
no.
exactly. So I just thought, it takes the pressure off for the first one, and then yeah, obviously everyone knows I'm doing it now, but for the
Yeah.
first one, it removes some of that pressure.
Wow, fantastic. Just quickly, was it because obviously there's venues where you can do just like tarmac only rallies with different configurations and things. I guess this was a full. Was it kind of like a full rally? Was it tarmac only, or there was some off road stages as well, or was it?
So at Anglesey, they use the whole circuit, but then they also use bits up and down the pit lane. So you'll do like hairpins up and down there, and then there's a bit right up the top of the circuit. So there's like some roads that go behind some of the buildings at the top of the
Okay.
circuit. So they've got like a jump there, and there's some like sort of broken up concrete, so it's a little bit more gravelly in places. So yeah, there's that sort of iconic shot you always get from that rally where you're going over the jump and you get a bit of air and you've got the sea in the background, and yeah, it's pretty cool place to do the first one.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. What a great place to do it. And I've, I think I've got this right. You came second in class in that first event. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You must have been chuffed to bits with that.
I was, and do you know what? I didn't actually know until the end of the day because I actually don't think that back then they even had the results online for that rally. Whereas nowadays, you're on your phone looking at the results when as soon as you've done a stage and they're coming in straight away. But I'm sure at that point you had to go over to the office and like, there would be a printout of stage times and things.
Right.
And I deliberately didn't look, and John said, it's best you just don't look. So I didn't look at all. So it wasn't until the end of the day, and I was like, great, finished my first rally. And they were like, "Oh, you've done better than finish. You get a trophy." So, yeah, I was pretty made up with that.
That must have been cool going home with the trophy and all your mates kind of saying, What? What's, what's that for?
Yeah,
What have you been
exactly.
up to?" That's fantastic. I just seen James Harmon. Evening, James. He's the resident Formula E fan. We like James.
I
Um,
know James actually. I've met
yes,
James at quite a few rallies. So,
yes.
hi James.
He said he was very pleased when you came on. I think he met you just before I did at the Autosport show, I think.
Oh, I'd met him before that actually. So at the McRae Rally Challenge and a couple of rallies. So yeah, James definitely loves his motorsport.
Yeah, he does. He's great. I've met him a couple of times. He's a top guy. But he said he's been to a rally at Anglesey twice. Definitely worth going. Yeah, clearly. Yeah, very cool. If you're in that neck of the woods, folks, do go and check out a rally there. I haven't done it yet, but I will at some point. Um, just to skip forward a bit, thereafter you entered. I've got here the is it the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship, sponsored by the good folk at Motorsport News, of course. Obviously, you did well in your first event, and you got a taste for it. Was entering a championship like a natural next step for you?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's something I would have thought of, but like I said, I did Anglesey and got it sort of out the way. And then John came to me and said, "Oh, we've got a car doing a Galloway Hills rally. So that's a gravel rally up in Scotland. Do you want to do that?" So I actually threw myself sort of immediately into the deep end for my second rally and did a gravel rally. So yeah, in the forest up in Scotland, it was in a different car again. So I was in a different polo for that one. And I did that rally and I absolutely loved it. And I thought, oh yeah, gravel, this is amazing. But equally, I realized I needed to get a bit more experience first, probably before I did too many of those events. So when John came to me and said, "We've got a few cars doing the circuit championship, do you fancy doing it as well?" It's also a lot more cost effective doing those sort of circuit types rallies. So it made it a bit easier for me to commit to a championship. So yeah, I ended up actually in a 1400 Punto Abarth and did the whole circuit championship. So we kicked off at Alton Park. We did Cadwell Park. Rockingham at that point was in it. Brands Hatch, Snetterton, Anglesey, Donington. So yeah, all the sort of classic
Wow.
circuits in the UK, and obviously mostly tarmac, but some of them like Snetterton, they have little gravel roads as well. So it was good experience for me, definitely. And in a low power car, sort of get used to the handling and having a few spins and things, which obviously happened.
Of course, you kind of have to. You have to find the limit, don't you? You got to find the limit of yourself and the car, and
Definitely found it a few times that year.
good to hear. Nothing wrong with that. Um, I'm just. I remember, obviously, I remember growing up with like rallycross at Brands Hatch. I used to go every November, December time and get cold and wet when I was a kid. You mentioned Brands Hatch. Just something popped into my head again. Did you do the bit where you came up the back of the pits? What was the circuit at Brands Hatch? Because my favourite bit was when they came the wrong way along the straight and then up through the back of the pits. I used to love that.
Yep, so we do all that. So it's basically the
Yeah,
same every year, but they're not allowed to use like the full circuit. So we use sort of bits of the circuit. We go, like I said, up and down the pit lane, and there's kind of, a really tight hairpin there. And they put some chicanes in, and then we use the rally school bit as well, which is obviously gravelly and usually sort of -5 degrees and icy as well because it's in January. So yeah, a mix of challenges there.
yeah, excellent. That's good to hear. I'm glad to see people are still getting cold and frozen watching rallies at Brands Hatch. I was doing that 35 years ago, which is fantastic to hear. But I guess, as you've alluded to, that year was just like a learning curve, wasn't it? It was a case of just
Exactly, yeah.
getting used to it. I guess there weren't any expectations or anything. It was just go out and do it and just get
No,
used
it
to
was just exactly a bit of fun, a cost-effective way of doing it and just getting some seat time under my belt, really.
it. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to come to this subject a bit later, and I don't like bringing it into it, but it's the obvious thing is the thing of gender because there aren't too many female rally drivers. Um, we I think we've got like Jay Pavey does circuit rallies, and we know about like Louise Cook. She's been out and done WRC2 and things like that
Yeah.
with the bonnet in Sweden and all that.
Mhm.
I spoke to her about that. Fun times. Did you get any negativity based on the fact that you happen to be female when you first went in?
Not at all, not in terms of negativity. I think
Nice.
sometimes people can be a little bit patronizing and, they don't mean to be, but it can be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, good for you," kind of thing. Or, I've even been at track days, never mind rallies, and, you turn up at the driver's briefing and, had a guy look at me and go, "Oh, are you driving?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was very much like, "Oh, good for you." And I was thinking, "Well, I'm also a rally driver." Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, so people can be a bit patronizing, and I've also found anytime I go to a rally where I don't know someone, they generally always look at you, see you're female, and assume you're a co-driver. So there's always go, "Oh,
Right.
who are you co-driving for?" So I've had that so many times, and I'm like, "Oh, actually, I'm driving." I had one time when I finished second in class as a driver at a rally, and then the print write up in Motorsport News said Ashley Morris finished second in class in his Ford Fiesta. And I was like, "Really?"
Wow. That's that.
So I
It's
think
just little things like that, isn't it?
yeah, it's not
And it's
necessarily
not always meant,
negativity.
is it? It's
No, I don't think it's negativity or it's intended. It's just that assumption that,
yeah,
rally driver, male, oh, you're female, you might be a co-driver.
yeah. No need for that. Maybe need to get a top with just driver on it or something,
Yeah.
just to stop it. Or people could stop asking silly questions. But well, that's good. At least there was no negativity because we've heard some stories, and it's been a pain. Yes, James Harmon has just done the face palm emoji. Yes, that absolutely right, James. Good man. Just to sort of skip forward, 2017, the Fiesta
Yes.
that you came by. Is it the uh, is it the one that you still have
It
now?
is, yes.
It
So,
is the purple one. Fantastic.
yeah, so I got my Fiesta, it gets called Jig because of the number plate, but yeah, we got Jig in October 2017. So I'd done a year in the circuit championship in the higher Pinto, and then I started to think, oh, I maybe want to get my own car, something a little bit quicker for the next season. It was all quite last minute because the circuit championship starts usually sort of bonfire weekend, so early November, and this was October when I went to get the car. So I was looking at something like an R2. Obviously, it was very last minute, and there's not many of them around that are right-hand drive, and I was very used to right-hand drive. So when this one came up, it was the R200, so it's got a little bit extra horsepower over the standard R2, and it was right-hand drive. So it just seemed like a really good opportunity. So went up a couple of hours north, had a look at this car, went and had a little drive on the road in it, and that was that. Bought that. So my dad, after not being too keen on me doing the rallying, realised after a year of me sort of doing it in self-funding that I really was quite committed to it. And he said,
Yeah,
"Okay, I'll help you out buying a car." So he helped me out with buying Jig. Um,
great.
and I did one test in the car. So we actually went to Anglesey, where they put on rally track days sometimes. So it's not competitive, but they set it up like a rally stage, and you get maps. And we did rally track day at Anglesey, and that was all I did before I then went and started competing in the championship again. So it was the same championship, but a step up to the 1600, and obviously a much quicker car, sequential gearbox, so very different to drive.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, what was the main difference between sort of the car that you'd had and then moving up to the Fiesta? And you touched on it there. And you had a test and everything, but I mean, I guess after the test, you were happy enough, because there's always that thing where when you change a car or move up into a more powerful car, you think, is this going to be a bit of a jump? How am I going to feel after the first one? Am I going to think, what have I done, or anything? Was there anything like that with you, or did you kind of take to it pretty quickly?
There was definitely never a moment where I thought, "Oh, what have I done?" Like I loved that car from the start, but
Right.
definitely after the first rally, when I looked at the times and stuff, I thought, "Oh, I need to learn how to push on in this and how to drive it properly." And being the sequential gearbox, it was very different to drive, and I was doing left foot braking and things. So yeah, there was definitely that whole first season in the car was just, I was still learning anyway because I've not been doing it long, but then learning the new car as well.
Yeah, it was more the mechanics of driving it rather than the actual car itself, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, which is great. I mean, I've just got a note here about getting a crew together to prep the car. Was it just you and your dad and a couple of other people, or was it what kind of crew did
No, so to be honest, I needed someone to kind of run the car for me, and there was a guy who'd been running the car from the person I bought it from. So we actually, for that first season, just left it with him, and he looked after the car for me for that first year because it was so last minute before the championship. He had the car, he had all the spares, he knew the car. So he ran the car for me for the first year.
you? Oh, that's great, excellent. Again, a good, not having to worry about it, having someone to
Yeah,
take
exactly.
care of it, which is great. So say hello to our good friend Diffan Wyn Evans in the comment section. See, everyone who's commenting is from Wales. There's a yeah. See, they love the rallying down there. Diffan, I have seen your questions, my friend, and we're gonna work to them very shortly. We are going to come to them about the Albert Clark rally and co-driving and stuff. We'll come to that very soon, my friend. Um, just to say that first was it the second event, I think it was in Jig, the Knock Hill stages, a bit of local knowledge perhaps, and you took second in class. That must have been again like another little shot in the arm, in the new car. Have a bit of success.
Yeah, that was really special because I think that season was quite tough as a whole, obviously getting used to the car. But I think Knock Hill kind of has always suited me, suited my driving, and it suited the car because obviously some of the other circuits, they're such fast circuits and it really benefits higher powered cars. Whereas Knock Hill being so tight and twisty, you can really get quite a lot out of it in a lower powered car. So it suited me well. Obviously, I've done my bars test there and seen a lot of people competing there over the years. So yeah, it was pretty special to go and do that at, my home circuit so close to where I grew up with friends and family around watching and things.
Yeah, lovely, good stuff. And that season, I guess it was just another learning curve again. I mean, I guess every season's a learning curve, isn't it? When you start
Yeah.
out in the new car and everything. And were you happy with the way the season went? That kind of year with the results and your personal development, more than anything else, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was probably taking it a bit too easy that whole season, and then it was probably moving on to the second season in the car where I started to kind of get some better results in, but also have a couple of accidents. So yeah, moving on to the sort of season after that, so 2018, 2019 season. Yeah, it was definitely starting to see the results get a bit better, but then had sort of two accidents as well. So the year after I had that second in class at Knock Hill, went back to Knock Hill and unfortunately rolled it there. So that was my first time rolling a car. It sort of barrel rolled several times and then hit the barrier and stopped. And
Wow.
yeah, the car was we were fine, but the car was damaged quite badly. It was quite dramatic to watch it back. So I've got the onboard and the external footage from the Knock Hill CCTV. So it was quite a dramatic one. But yeah, we both just got out and walked away from it. Um, it worked out quite well timing wise in terms of the championship because those rallies were generally every 2 weeks. So we'd done so I'd missed Alton Park. We did Cadwell later in November, then Knock Hill, and then we were kind of lucky in a way that because of Christmas and New Year, there was in a 6 week break until Brands
Right.
Hatch. So if it had been another point in the season, that might have maybe been it for me. But we actually managed to get the car rebuilt back out, did a quick test at Donington, and went back out for Brands Hatch. So yeah, that was pretty special. And then for the championship that year, we were awarded Spirit of the Championship. So I think everyone realised, how much it was to try and get the car back together and get back out at Brands. And then unfortunately, then at Cadwell later in the season, had a bit of a moment where, again, I just clipped something. The car went up on two wheels, came back down, but broken the steering, went through a fence. So a bit of damage. So I think, yeah, like I said, the first year was probably quite cautious. And then that second year, I was just trying to push on a bit more. And we did go a bit quicker, but obviously had a couple of moments as well. So,
Wow, well, firstly, that's amazing to get the car back and back on the stages so soon after the roll. I've never been in a car that's rolled. I'm very fortunate, but I can't imagine myself wanting to get back in it anytime soon. But obviously, that's where you guys are different. Yeah. I guess it was obviously disappointing and upsetting and demoralizing, but I guess you just thought, right, if we can get this fixed, let's get this fixed and get back at it, which was obviously recognized with the award that you got, which is
yeah.
fantastic. Wow.
I think to watch it back, it feels a bit surreal and as if it was happening to someone else, to be honest.
Right.
I can watch the onboard and it kind of relate it to what happened. Because I remember my door got damaged in the accident. I didn't realize at the time, but obviously my door had flown open. And then every time we rolled and hit the ground, it was like my side of the car. And I remember thinking, oh, there's all this dirt coming in, like I had dirt in my mouth, and it was because the door was open and the car kept kind of hitting the ground on my side. And it turned out the seat bracket had bent, so my seat had moved slightly further towards the door. So the top of the seat, so where you've got like the headrest, had moved slightly outside where the roll cage was. So actually, when I was thinking the ground feels really close here, that's because it really was.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, it was watching the onboard back. I kind of watch and I think, oh yeah, that does feel like what happened. But to watch it from outside, it just feels like watching someone else's crash, to be honest. So
Almost looks like a different accident. Well,
yeah,
we're obviously very glad the seat didn't shift any further, and
yeah.
that could have been very serious. So it's really good to hear. Wow, made of tough stuff. Yeah, good. Just want to say hello to Kales and Mike Cole, who are tuning in on their way to Alton Park. Kales is hopefully going to be racing again this year. For those of you who don't know, she's from out in Ireland, been racing in F1000 and karting and things like that, and she's looking for some help for some sponsors. So we obviously wish Kales and Mike well and thank them all for their support. And thanks to everyone who has supported Kales as well. We have to give them a shout. Okay, now this is a bit of a mouthful. We touched on this when you were pushing a bit further in 2018. The Association of Northwestern Car Clubs Championship, even the abbreviation is long. ANWCC. Again, was that just about progressing and just moving up the UK ladder and just doing different things? And
Well, to be honest, a lot of the events in the ANWCC Championship coincided with the Circuit Rally Championship.
right,
So it felt like a bit of a no-brainer to me. I was like, I can register for both these championships, get some points in them. I'd also done, I think, the year after, I think it was, well, it might have been the 18-19 season. I think I'd done Three Sisters as just a bit of a test before the season started, and it was in the ANWCC Championship. So it just felt like a bit of a no-brainer to kind of enter and get some points in that championship as well.
yeah, okay, cool. Just another question from Diffan. Thank you, Diffan. He says, have you ever been to Pembury Circuit to do a rally or just to be there in general?
No, I haven't actually.
No, that's further down south, isn't it? It's down Swansea way, I think. No, well, that's one maybe want to tick off.
One to add to the list, yeah.
Add and tick off the list. I've been past Pembury and I had a quick look at in there once. It's like Anglesey, not quite as scenic, but it is lovely. Very lovely circuit. They used to do an F1 testing there, which I thought was mental when I got there. Remember Alan
Yeah,
Prost and McLaren there once. Crazy. Okay. So yes, I just want to have a quick run through. In that 2018 season, you were the Class B champion driver from the North Wales Stage Rally Challenge. You you had your first class win, the Lee Holland Memorial Stage. I think I've got that right.
Yeah.
To get that first class win, that must be great. I mean, even if you've had second places and you've had trophies and things, and it doesn't matter whether there's 3 people in your class or 30, to get a class win, that must have been fantastic.
Yeah, it was really special, and I think the fact that that rally's at Anglesey as well, it felt like a little bit like coming full circle. So I was back at Anglesey, in my own car this time, and yeah, it was pretty special. It wasn't really expected. It was a tough rally because I remember we went to bed the night before and it was snowing, so we literally were like, "Are we going to be able to do this rally tomorrow? What's going to happen?" And there was still snow on the ground when we got to Anglesey, so it was yeah, definitely an experience, and yeah, pretty special.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. I know we don't like to talk about like gender and segregation and things like that because I know you just want to race. It doesn't matter who you're competing against. But you were nominated for the British Women Racing Drivers Club Gold Star Award, which is a nice thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really nice to be nominated, and yeah, I'm a huge fan of the BWRDC. I've been a member since I think about 2018, and yeah, they're very much there to. So while I don't support segregation, the club are there very much to support and promote women in motorsport, and I
Yeah,
think especially when you're starting out, or if you're a woman who's not in motorsport and looking to start out, I think having that support network can be really nice because it can be a little bit daunting if you're showing up to events and you're the only women. So
yeah,
when I was doing the circuit championship, generally the only female drivers were myself and Kathy Stewart. And Kathy was rally secretary at the time, and she sort of approached me and said, do you interested in joining the club? And I'd never even heard of the club at that point, to be honest. But yeah, it's really been nice for me to have that network over the last few years.
yeah. That's lovely. That's good to hear. And obviously, each to their own when it comes to segregation in motorsport. But as you say, these organisations, whether it be for for kids or for females or for people from different parts of the world or whatever it might be, it can only help get people involved, can't it? So,
Yeah.
which is great. James Harmon's never been to Pembury, even though he's Welsh. Scandalous. James, come on, my friend, get yourself down there, man. Formula E at Pembury. That's you be straight there. I know that. Which is yeah, fantastic. What are we going to do here? Yes, we mentioned that. Okay, let's have a quick skip forward. 2019. You said it felt like there was a big step for you in 2018. And there was more successes in 2019 from what I can see. You came second in Class B at the Dukeries Rally, second in Class B at Lee Holland Memorial Stages, Class B runner-up in the ANWCC Stage Rally Championship as a
Yeah.
whole. A good year, one that you look back on with some fondness, I guess.
Yeah, so like I said, 2018-19, it felt like it started to come together, but then there were a few sort of accidents. But then the 2019 to 2020 season was when it really did kind of all come together for me. So I had someone new running the car for me at that point, and I think that really helped me a lot. Even just things like, playing around with my seating position in the car. One of the big things I'd always struggled with in the car was the handbrake was in the wrong place. So it was obviously sort of designed for someone taller who's sitting further back in the car, to be able to get some leverage. And the handbrake where it was for me was just literally, right there in front of me. So I couldn't get any leverage. So we literally moved the handbrake miles over so I could actually, get some decent leverage. And, as a rally driver, you want to be able to use the handbrake. So little things like that. We did some testing before the start of the year. We kind of played around with the brake bias a lot. And I think before I'd been having a lot of spins and always thinking it was, my fault, whereas actually the braking balance of the car wasn't quite set up right. So once we played around with that a bit, it was definitely a lot better. So we went and did the I think it was the Dukeries at Donington, like you said, that we got second. So that was a bit of a test before the season started. And then we kicked off and did Alton Park, which I think we just missed out on a class podium. We were second in class, I think, at Cadwell, and then went to Knockhill at the end of 2019 and won the class there. So that's probably the most special memory that I have in rallying because obviously the year before I'd rolled it. and everyone had seen it, and everyone was kind of aware of it, and I was like, "Oh, I can't go out and crash again because I'm just going to get this reputation, but I can't go around and just drive really slowly because I don't want people to think it's kind of affected me." So I was like, I need to get a good class result at this rally. And we went out, and the night before we'd done a quick test. There were a couple of problems with the car, so we were actually waiting for someone to bring a sensor up for us overnight. My co-driver at the time had been away somewhere doing a rally abroad, and his flight he'd missed a connecting flight. So I went to bed the night before the rally, not knowing if we'd have this sensor for the car, and not knowing if my co-driver would be back in the country. So luckily, the sensor turned up, co-driver turned up. We went out and did this rally. It's probably the worst conditions I've ever rallied in. It was just torrential rain. So there were up the hill on the rally stage, there were water splashes where there's not supposed to be water splashes. It was just torrential. And actually, the conditions worked really well for me because the people in the quicker cars couldn't really get the power down because the conditions were so bad. And yeah, we were winning the class all day. We won the class. We actually beat everyone in the 2 litre class, so the class above ours, and we were 13th overall, which is the best sort of finish I've ever had. So for me, I felt like I put so much pressure on myself for that rally, and I thought, God, I feel like it could go one way or the other, but it all sort of came together on that day. And then I had my family there, my friends, my goddaughter. So yeah, it was really special because my friend had been there the year before when I rolled it, and she was crying and really upset about it. And so it was nice to go back and have something to celebrate there with everyone.
Have almost a complete opposite experience, and
Yeah,
that's impressive. And given that the prep for it hadn't been ideal, as you touched on, it makes it even more. It kind of makes it even more impressive. I mean, what I like though is that you were aware of what had happened previously and you didn't want to do it again and things like that. Because I've spoken to a lot of racers where they just say, "Oh, well, that happened," and they forget about it, and they don't use it as kind of a barometer against their performance this time round. They just go, "Oh, well, that happened last time. It's done. It's finished," which
yeah,
is good in some ways, but not in others. So I kind of love the fact you thought, right, that's not happening again. But but I'm also going to make sure I don't get too far the other way, which is great.
yeah,
Love
yeah.
to hear that. Excellent. Um, 2020. Obviously, we all know what happened in the world, and we
Mm,
huge struggle for for everyone, and obviously many thousands of people didn't make it through, which was very, very, very sad. So we're all very grateful to be here, which is why I'll never complain about it. But obviously, the elite motorsports eventually found a way around
yeah,
COVID. Yeah, F1 carried on a bit later on. Yeah, the BTCC, for example, had a really condensed season, but they kind of got it out there. I guess you guys didn't have that luxury at all. It was just a case of
yeah.
right, everything stops, and I guess you just didn't know when you were going to be out there again.
No, exactly that. So, like I said, I'd been having a good run in the 2019 to 2020 season, and we'd had that class win at Knockhill in the December, picked up again at Brands Hatch in the January, and the season finishes in March. So we were actually really lucky. We did, I think, one of the last rallies in the country, just probably days before we went into lockdown. So we were at Donington. It was the final round of the championship, and that was when it was, COVID was the thing. I remember, I think you had to go in like one at a time to sign on, and they gave you like a new pen, and you had to take that pen away with you because no one was to touch the pen afterwards. So I think it
The
was before
first
the
step.
mask situation, but it was just a lot of marshals are a bit older, so I think it was just being really cautious around the people that were there. So yeah, it was just we went ahead with the event, but it was a little bit, we didn't nobody knew what was going to happen. So finished that rally second in class on a real high, and we'd finished second in class in the championship again. So it was the best season I'd had, and I was all set to then kick off my move into closed road rallying. So I thought, I've done the circuit thing for a few years now. I'm used to the car. I feel like I've built up my pace. I'm all set to go and do something different. So it was a week or two after Donington, I was all set to go and do Northwest stages, but obviously everything was then cancelled between Donington and Northwest. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. And
Wow,
I think it was
wow.
September or October when I got back out. So obviously lost a lot of that momentum, having been in the car really every 2 weeks doing all those rallies. By the time we got back into it, it was September, October time. I remember doing one rally where they made you wear masks in the car, because obviously, you're in with a co-driver, so
Co-driver. Yeah.
racing was able to start up before we were with rallying. And I actually, in that time, sat my race license because I thought if I can't go rallying, maybe I'll go racing. So I sat my
Okay.
race license, but by the time I did that and then was thinking about going racing, rallying started up again. So I didn't actually use it. But yeah, I did an event or two where you were supposed to wear a mask, which just seems really dangerous because it's quite flammable.
Yeah.
But anyway, we did what we had to do to get back out. So I did an event or two at the end of 2020. So it was sort of September, October, and then we all sort of went into sort of mini lockdowns again. And even at that point, people couldn't run closed road rallies and those sorts of events. So it was very much just single venue, airfields, circuits. So unfortunately, I had to put my plans to do closed roads and forest rallies on hold for a bit. And it wasn't until the next year, so 2021, when I was able to finally, do my first rally like that in jigs. So I was due to do, no, in fact, I did Argyll. So I did Argyll, I think was my first one back. So it was my first ever closed road rally in 2021.
Okay.
And then I was supposed to do my first gravel rally, which would have been the Scottish in the July. And then I actually got COVID myself.
Oh,
So I missed that one due to having COVID, and then picked up again and did the rest of the Scottish Championship. So it was a bit of a condensed season due to COVID. But yeah, so 2021 for me was the first year of properly going into the forest and doing my first closed road rally. So
wow. That's cool. That's amazing. I always hadn't thought about rallying when it came to COVID and co-drivers and masks and stuff. Because
yeah.
obviously, so much of motorsport is you're out there on your own. And I hadn't really thought of that. Good point, actually, raised by Difan in the comments. Obviously, motorsport costs money. We know that. Everyone knows that. There's no such thing as there's like relatively cheap, but it's never cheap. Different was just asking how difficult was it for you to get sponsors after and during, I guess, the effects of COVID? Yeah, because companies had been shut and they hadn't been making money
Yeah.
as much. Was it very difficult to get?
Yeah, so I'd had a really big sponsor for the 2019 to 2020 season. So I was sponsored by a company called Cirrus Research. And they sponsored me for that season. And then sadly, after COVID, pulled out. So they were sponsoring myself. They were sponsoring a couple of racing drivers as well. And then they decided after that they were taking a different direction from motorsport. So that hit me quite hard.
Right.
But yeah, trying to find additional sponsors was much harder. I would say during COVID, it was pretty much impossible because firstly, companies didn't really have any money, but also a lot of the rallies, once they did start up, they made them zero spectator. So as a driver, what can you offer someone if no one's allowed in to see the rally and it's all behind closed doors? So I would say it
Sure.
was pretty much impossible then, but continues to be a challenge. I would say more so in rallying. I could be wrong, but I feel like from a racing perspective, you can invite people along, you've got hospitality, they can
Yeah.
meet all the drivers, they can see the cars going around many times, rather than
Mm.
rallying is more of a challenge. It's less televised, we've got less of that coverage, and not everyone wants to come out and stand in a muddy forest in the rain to see their car go past once. So I feel
Sure.
like it can be more of a challenge as to sell in, unless someone's a fan of rallying anyway. And I think there is a lot more we can do as a sport. But yeah, it definitely is harder. And I think for me, making the step from the circuit rallying to the sort of forest and things made it harder as well, because again, when I was doing the circuit rallying, I could invite sponsors along and it was a little bit more easy for people,
Yeah.
and they could come back and talk to us between every stage and
Yeah.
offer a bit more of that experience. Plus, at that point, the circuit championship was on Amazon Prime. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really big selling point for sponsors or potential sponsors as well, because everyone's got Prime nowadays. So yes, it's not on mainstream TV, but that's certainly a good point for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you kind of said there, yeah, the circuit rallies, it's kind of centralized, it's a hub, it's all in one area.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
as you're going out into the forest, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? You're out in the in the back end of nowhere. And yeah, God, I can only imagine how difficult it was to get people interested, unless you find that kind of, that kind of 1 in 10,000 people that is a rally fan and they want to get involved.
Exactly.
But I mean, I guess, I mean, I love these like circuit rallies where it's all in one area and it's all kind of. But did you, in terms of actual driving and just like going rallying, did you prefer going out onto these stages out in the forests? Yeah, the ones that fans have said the WRC are going to be more familiar with. Was that something you enjoyed getting right out there and doing it?
Yeah, I much prefer it to be honest. Yeah, whether it's closed roads or gravel. I think the circuit rallying was great for me for the first few years, and it really helped me cut my teeth. And I'd recommend it to anyone, first getting into rallying. And it's a more cost-effective way of doing it as well, to be honest. The entry fees, are a fraction of what it is. You usually can, probably be away for one night. Whereas once you start to go into closed road rallies, you've got recce's and things, so you can be away for quite a few days. So the costs tend to add up in terms of expenses as well. But yeah, for me, I absolutely love closed roads and gravel. So I'm at the point now where I'd probably rather do less rallies and be able to do some of those bigger events,
Right.
rather than a full season of sort of single venue rallying. But it's all got its place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. That's great. I mean, I did see when I was doing some research and stuff. People were talking about proper rallying, which is what people
Yeah,
see with. And I kind of get where they're coming from, but it's all rallying to me, isn't it? It's like people say, "Oh, it's proper motorsport, proper." Nothing's proper. Everything has got a place for itself, and yeah, which is
yeah,
fantastic. I actually went on a just completely digress. I had a rally thing out in Finland, a rally experience out in Finland back in 2011. It was the Ari Vatanen school,
oh, cool.
and yeah, going sideways at 85 miles an hour towards a tree on snow is something else. And it just made me realise I really don't know how you do it. It is incredible. But yeah, these proper like forest rally stages or whatever they are fantastic to watch. And by the sounds of it, they're
Yeah.
fantastic to be on as well. One thing I did want to touch on though, the Grampian Forest Rally. Now, I've got family up in Ballater in the Grampians, which is, if people don't know, it's sort of Aberdeen and inland by about 30 miles. Fabulous part of the UK, really, really beautiful. Was it around there that you had a few stages? Was it around that area? Like
Yeah, it
around
was. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it was a fantastic rally. That one was actually the first one I did, first forest rally in Jig in 2021 because I'd missed the Scottish with COVID, and I absolutely loved it. So I've done that rally a couple of times, 2021 and then 2022. 2022 was a disaster. So we had two different punctures on different stages that we had to stop and change. And I think it's probably the rally I've most ever just wanted to get out of the car and say, let's just call it a day. But no, we stuck at it and we got a finish, which sometimes it's just about getting to the end. But no, from my first gravel rally in Jig, I just absolutely loved it.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Because I mean, it's a lovely part of the world, even if you're not thumping around in a rally car. But I bet, I bet it is a great place to go.
Yeah, the views on the way up there and everything, and then yeah, the stages are incredible as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just another quick look through your results and everything. You came third in Class 3 on the Carlisle stages, third in Class M3 on the Scottish Rally Championship. And yeah, I just guess it was another positive year for you in terms of like successes and progress.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously like back to being a massive learning curve because obviously it was the first ever closed road rally I did that year, and I'd only done two forest events, but never in that car, and it was quite a few years before. So, yeah, again, it was a big learning curve for me, but I just absolutely loved it. It was the first time doing all the events I did, and I think after doing the same events again and again for a few years in the circuit championship, it was nice to just see something all with fresh eyes. And I'm, like I said, Midlands based, and my car at the point at that time was based in the Midlands as well. So we were kind of going on all these big road trips up to, near Aberdeen and things. And, it became like part of the adventure, really. Here we go again, another road trip. The guys would be driving the van, we had the car behind. I was in the back of the van trying to do some work from the back with my laptop set up and everything. So yeah, it was just yeah, it felt like a big adventure, really, compared to what we've been doing with just going to all the circuit rallies, which were within a couple of hours of us. Yeah, they all felt like quite a big undertaking.
That's great. All part of the fun as well. It's not just about the
Yeah,
actual eating itself. That's great. One thing I did see, and I don't know much about this, you came third in class. This is 2022 in the Snowman Rally. Now I
yeah,
know it's just I could probably guess why it's called that, but what a brilliant name for a rally! I do love that. I love it.
Yeah,
So,
well, it's sort of typically the opening round of the Scottish Championship, and yeah, I think they have had a lot of snow in the past there. We didn't have any that year, but it was a great rally. I really loved that one, and it seemed to suit me and suit the car quite well.
yeah, fantastic. Just want to go back to the comment with James. He's still here, which is super. He's just said, and I think we all echo this. He's hoping with the new ITV deal with the British Rally Championship, it'll help rallying in the UK again. Yeah, not just with visibility for spectators and fans, but also for potential sponsors as well. I think that could be really big, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's great to have the BRC back on TV again because, in terms of racing, you've got BTCC and the coverage and the interest you get at that level is
Yeah,
so high. And if we could get that number of people interested in watching, the BRC, it would have a knock-on effect on other championships and the interest that people have as well. So, yeah, a lot of people have, there's been mixed comments about the coverage of the BRC, but I just think its coverage, we need to be grateful that it's back on TV again. And I think the coverage is getting better. And it's a great opportunity, like I said, not just for the BRC, but for it as a halo of rallying in the UK.
yeah, absolutely agreed. I mean, I think if you're trying to sell something to anyone, if you can say it's on TV, um, and you don't have to look too hard to find it, then then it's a much easier sell, isn't it? So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, fingers crossed we can see a spike soon. That would be very good to see. One thing I do want to touch on though was the your invitation to the McRae Rally Challenge. Very very cool, isn't it? With
Yeah,
with the great Jimmy himself.
yeah, that was pretty special to be honest. So the event, for people that don't know, was kind of originally to celebrate the anniversary of Colin winning the World Rally Championship. So they did the first one in 2015, and then it was meant to be a sort of 5 yearly thing to mark sort of anniversaries. So it was meant to run in 2020, and then obviously COVID happened, so it ran a couple of years late in 2022. So I'd actually competed in the very first one in 2015 as a co-driver. So my uncle has this Metro 6R4, and I co-drove for him in that. So that's when I was in the 6R4. So, so yeah, his usual co-driver couldn't do that event, and he said, "Do you want to co-drive for me at this McRae Rally Challenge?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, please." So yeah, so I sat with him, and at that point, Chris Meek was at that one. Stig Blomqvist was competing in it, so it was pretty
Wow.
special to be a part of. And if you'd said to me at that point, next time this rally runs, you'll be competing in it as a driver, I never would have believed you for a
Wow.
second, because in
Wow.
2015 I hadn't even started driving at that point. So for me, it was pretty special to actually be there, but be on the other side of the car, and even to get an invite was incredible. And obviously they had the McRaes there, so Jimmy, Alistair, Max, Chris Hoy. So yeah, it was just a really special event to be a part of, and obviously being at Knockhill as well for me, which is the home rally, as we said, was really special.
That's fantastic. I love that. And obviously, Jimmy and Chris Hoy were at Autosport this year, and it
Yeah,
was very, very cool to see them both looking well. Obviously, we wish them both well. Obviously, Jimmy's getting on in a few years, but what an absolute legend and an absolute
yes,
gem.
yeah,
And we wish Chris Hoy well as well
yeah,
because he's unwell at the moment. But he seems like he's doing very well. But
yeah.
seems a bit daft of me talking about these people as if they know who I am. But anyway, um, but no, very very cool event, and hopefully we can go back again. The next time it's run.
I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It's a great honour to have. Oh, and James has said that's the rally that he met you at. So there you go. That's another
Yeah, that
reason.
was the first time I met James. That's right.
Yeah. So you met Jimmy McRae, Chris Hoy, and James Harmon. There are three people you need to meet.
Exactly.
No, he's great stuff. Great stuff. Um, one thing that we did sort of mention before, or was it mentioned earlier? Was it the end of 2022 you had a big accident? Was that the one we touched on earlier, or was it a different? Because there was one where
So
you were out of action for months, weren't you?
yeah, so that was this one, unfortunately. So
22.
yeah, the one at Knockhill, like I said, looked very dramatic, but we got the car sort of redone in 6 weeks, and it was luckily mostly sort of cosmetic damage. And then yeah, so obviously I'd started doing forests and closed roads in 2021, continued that path in 2022. So I was doing the complete Scottish Rally Championship that year. COVID was luckily well, no lockdowns or anything at that point, so we were able to get the full season in, starting with the Snowman. We got to Galloway Hills, which was the one I was looking forward to the most, actually, because I really loved that rally. So it was the second last round of the championship. We were doing a loop of 2 stages 3 times. So we'd done the first 2 loops. We've been trying different tires and things. We've been trying to push on, and my co-driver actually said to me afterwards, "Oh, it felt like we were really starting to, get some pace and things." But unfortunately, it all went a little bit wrong on stage 5 of 6. So totally my fault. In my head, I thought I was going left, and it was a blind crest, and it was a right-hander. And watched the video back, and the pace note was called very clearly. So it was completely driver error. I think I maybe just lost concentration for a split second, and I thought I was going for this blind crest and going left. By the time I realised the road was going to the right and tried to correct, I was because I was carrying a bit too much speed. We were in fourth gear, wasn't able to hold it, and we sort of nose dived into a ditch, and we both thought we'd rolled, but like end over end.
Right.
Because one minute we were looking down at the ground, the next minute we were sort of looking up at the sky. But looking at the damage afterwards, there's no damage to the roof. No one saw it or anything. And looking at the onboard, it looks like it maybe sort of nose dived in and then bounced back the other way.
Okay.
But regardless, we got out of the car, we put the okay sign out. I couldn't get out my door because it was like wedged shut. So, climbed out the co-driver's door, put the okay sign up. We waited for everyone to go through. We got recovered, and I didn't think it was that bad at that point. So I was like, oh, it might need a door, it's going to need a bumper, it's going to need a light. And the guys came to recover us, my team. And Howard, who ran my car, said, "I think this might be the end of jig." And I literally started crying because
Oh
I was so attached to that car, and it's my first car, and like I said, my dad helped me out buying it, and sadly he passed away at the end of 2020. So it kind of meant a lot more to me, that car. And yeah, that's when I realized how big it was. So unfortunately, when I got back in the car to drive it once it'd been recovered, you could see it was all twisted up like the central tunnel, and then all at the back underneath was twisted. The roll cage was like bent and cracked in several places. So
wow.
unfortunately, it was a significant job, not just cosmetic damage. So it was, the actual shell and cage itself. So yeah, so that was in September. So unfortunately, that was my season over. So I wasn't able to do Carlisle stages and finish the championship, unfortunately, and didn't end up getting the car back until May 2023. But I did make the decision that I wanted to get that car fixed and back. I could have sold it as it was and got not very much for it, or I could pay to get it fixed. And I thought, I'm attached to that car. Mechanically, the gearbox, the engine, and everything were fine. So yeah, we decided to fix the car. So I didn't get back till May last year. So in
Wow.
the meantime, I'd always wanted to do a rally abroad, and I thought, maybe now's a good chance. I've been talking about doing it for a few years, struggled to get the sponsorship, and wasn't able to kind of at the same time be doing a championship here and doing something abroad. So I thought, while I'm out of action, we'll go and do that. So I started out hiring a car, just a standard Fiesta R2, to do East Riding stages, because I wanted to get used to left-hand drive, because like I said, my car's right-hand drive.
Right.
But anything you hire that's homologated is left-hand drive. So I did East Riding stages in February last year, and then went across and did Rally de Grasse at the end of March last year. So that was in France. So yeah, it was just a massive, big learning curve on every level for me. So obviously it was my second event on left-hand drive, first time competing abroad, and actually my first time making pace notes from scratch, because in
Wow.
the UK for gravel rallies, you don't get to recce's. You actually just buy a set of notes and a video, and you have, that's all you've done. So you've never driven the stages before. And then we do get to recce for the closed road rallies, but generally you only get maybe 2 runs through a stage. So again, usually people buy notes and just make some changes to them. But yeah, in France, literally you're making your own notes from scratch. which for me was the biggest thing really. So yeah, we went across and we did a full 2 days recce, made all our notes from absolute scratch. I hired a left-hand drive car over there to do the recce in, and then yeah, I hired a car from a company in France, but they actually ended up bringing the car in from Italy. So we were a real international team. So my service crew only spoke Italian and I only spoke English. So we had a guy from the team who was French, who was kind of translating between Italian and English for us.
Wow.
um, so it was a pretty cool experience. I was there for a week. They're really into their rallying over there,
Mm.
so it can feel sometimes like over here, we're doing things a little bit behind closed doors because there can be PR issues and things, but over there, just everyone in the area was really into it. So there were massive, you know, yeah, crowds of people out there, a really good atmosphere. Stages were incredible. So we did some of the iconic stages that they do for Rally Monte Carlo. Um,
Wow.
so just driving them was pretty special. Although I have to say, going through some of those tunnels, especially when you're in a left-hand drive car that you're not used to, that was a challenge. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had a good run. We got a finish, and I actually finished on the Saturday night, flew back to Heathrow that night, and then went and co-drove at Cadwell Park on Sunday for Ollie. So it was a big weekend.
And like from Heathrow to Cadwell isn't a short trip, is it? I mean, I mean, if it was at Brands Hatch or something, you go, "Oh, okay, fair enough." But Cadwell's a long way.
Yeah, no, we had a very early start on the Sunday morning to get there. So I think we got up about 4 or something to get there.
Wow.
But
And on the back of obviously what you've been doing, I was actually going to ask, because I was aware that the rally was around kind of the south of France, way down south. I didn't realize it was using some of the Monte Carlo rally stages. That's very, very cool.
yeah.
Um, I mean, how and I guess it all went well, generally.
Yeah, it
Um,
went well. Like definitely, could have pushed on more, but being the first event abroad and the first time driving a Rally 4 car as well, whereas my car is naturally aspirated, this is a turbo. It's a lot quicker than my car, so it's definitely something I would feel like I need to go back and do again and kind of build up. But I was pleased with how it went for my first. It was many firsts for me that event.
yeah, that's great, excellent, and I guess you'd go back if you had the chance.
Oh, massively, yeah. Obviously, it costs a lot of money sort of getting there and all the time you're there for recce, but in terms of, entry fees are much more cost effective over there. And the rally is a lot longer than most of the events in the UK. So in terms of value per mile, you're probably getting double the mileage. And the team put on a test for me the day before as well. So definitely, it was a lot of money, but it certainly worked out not too
Yeah,
bad from a value perspective.
that's great. A bit more bang for your buck, which is fantastic. Diffan's asked me to pronounce something in Welsh. I'm going to try that again in a minute. We'll come to that, Diffan. Thank you. Just to sort of skip forward where are we, into like 2023, 24. I mean, you actually said, to me that it's been a bit of a stop start kind of period for you with regards to running in the last few months.
Yeah.
Is that just with you know sort of like backing and just the way the world is and
Yeah, unfortunately.
people being a bit
Yeah.
strapped? Yeah.
So, yeah, when I started driving in 2016, obviously I threw myself straight into a championship from the start. So, sort of right through until the end of 2022 when I had the big accident, I'd been doing, championships, back to back every year. And it is a big commitment in terms of time, money, trying to raise budget. At times I've had more budget from sponsors, others, sometimes I've had to self-fund more. But yeah, unfortunately, 2023 obviously had a lot of big costs with getting the car rebuilt and with going to France as well. So when I got the car back, I wasn't able to do too many events last year. So it was the first year I hadn't done a full championship, which felt a bit sad in a way. But then equally, when I was able to go and do my first event abroad, I was able to do Argyle, which I love. And then at the end of the year, I went to do Jersey, which was something I'd always wanted to do. So the fact I wasn't doing a championship kind of let me pick and choose my events a little bit more. And then, yeah, the plan this year was to do ideally the full Pro Tire Asphalt Championship. But unfortunately, partly budget and partly just life, work situation, and I'm moving house. It's making it quite difficult for me this year. So obviously we got in the first couple of rounds. So we did Northwest Stages, which
Mm.
obviously I was meant to do in 2020, when it was then cancelled last minute because of COVID. So it was nice to finally tick that one off the list. And then we did the Isle of Man, which has just been on my bucket list, as it is with most people's, for a while. And that counts as 2 rounds of the championship. So we've managed to get a few in, but unfortunately, until I get situations sorted out with house move, job, sponsors, it's going to have to take a little bit of a backseat for the next few months.
Yeah, which is a shame, but obviously, other things in life that have to come first, unfortunately. I mean, just quickly on the Manx Rally. I mean, as you said, it's a bucket list item. It's one I remember watching. With the British Rally Championship. Always remember it wasn't Gwyndaf Evans. It was someone else in a Sierra, and they went over a bridge and bottomed out, and they got wedged in between the two. On a bridge, and there was another one. Someone else, it might have been Mark Lovell. I can't remember, but he went round and he was about to go straight into the harbour, but there was a very sturdy concrete bollard that he hit plumb on the front, and it kept him dry. I always remember that. But where were the where were the stages held around the Isle of Man? Because obviously it's not a big place, unless you're on a motorbike riding around it, in which case I'm sure it is. But
To be honest, they were all over the island. So
okay.
yeah, we don't do any of the like TT circuit as a stage. We drove road sections that were on the roads they use for the TT. But yeah, it was all over the island because on Recce they were quite strict on what stages you could drive at certain times. So we were kind of driving up and down quite a lot, I felt, from one end to the other, which is when it does feel bigger than it is, doesn't it? When you're sort of on a time schedule to try and get there to get your recce in. But yeah, all over the island, and a real mix of stages. There's bits of it that are quite tight and technical, but equally some really, really fast bits with some big, big jumps. So yeah, it's definitely a place. I loved it, and the mileage we got was really good as well. But it was a lot of recceing to do in one day. So I definitely feel it's the sort of place that once you've been back and been there a few times and maybe improved the notes, to sort of push on a bit more. But I was pleased with how it went. So we finished 6th in our class out of 20 starters. So for the first visit there, I was pleased with that. I was a bit cautious on the Friday, I think, but then on the Saturday started to sort of get into it. And like I said, I've not been out that much recently. So I think by day 2, I was kind of getting into a better rhythm and just enjoying it and just being like, wow, I'm here doing the Manx. So it was a bit surreal.
That's great. And, being able to push, but also allowing yourself a moment to think, "I'm doing this," which
Yeah.
is a very cool thing to be able to
Yeah,
do.
'cause I think at one point on the Friday night, it was a bit disappointing because I thought, oh, the times aren't quite where I want to be. And then, had a bit of a word with myself and thought, I'm here doing this.
Go
Just
for it.
enjoy it. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's brilliant. Love to hear that. Okay, just this next bit, we're going to talk about co-drivers. I mean, you've worked with some very good ones, and it ties in with what Diffan asked um, a little bit earlier in the chat. I found it. He said, "Would you love to have a go at being a co-driver as well now and again?" And I know you have been as well. So, and you've been co-driving a bit, and you've worked with some good co-drivers as well, haven't you?
Yeah. So when I first started driving for quite a few years, that all I did was drive. Finally got into the driver's seat, and I was happy with that. And then I sort of fell into co-driving again. So I did a few events with my brother, and then I got the chance to sit in with Ollie O'Donovan, who, if anyone doesn't know, is a rallycross driver. Used to rally years ago, but he was just getting back into rallying. So I did a couple of events with him one year, and then we did the full circuit championship from 2022 to 2023. So that was a really special opportunity for me. Ollie's an amazing driver. We were out in an R5, so one of the top cars. We did mostly in a Hyundai R5, but then also we did one in a Fiesta R5. But it was also just really nice for me to return to the circuit championship because obviously I've done it for a few years. And as much as I loved getting out and doing different events, I kind of felt a bit, oh, I'm missing these events that I did for so many years, and I couldn't afford to drive on both. But it was nice to get back out and do those events from the other side, and see some of the people that I used to compete with when I was driving. So it was pretty special. So we did the full season 2022 to 2023, and that kind of coincided with when my car was out of action as well. So it worked quite well for me, that I was able to have something to keep me busy while I was waiting for my car to get repaired.
That's great. That's enough. I mean, it's a good that again. It goes back to right at the very start where you started as a co-driver. It gives you that other involvement, which obviously you're able to do when you're not driving yourself, which is great. And just co-drivers in general. I mean, you've worked with a lot of them. I've said it before; they're a different breed. I mean, at least when you're driving, you're in control of the car, but when you're sitting there with full faith in them, just we have to just give a big shout out to all the co-drivers out there, don't we? Because they, you know, they're the ones that have the notes and they call it all out, and they have the guts and the faith to do it, which is incredible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who've not rallied themselves, even people that love the sport, maybe don't realize quite how much is involved as a
Mm,
co-driver and how important it is to have a good co-driver. So, it's not just about calling the notes. They're doing all the organizing and everything as well in the lead up to event, making sure that we get everywhere we need to be on time, navigating us through the road sections. There's so much that they do. It's really multitasking. At least I can kind of, as a driver, switch off to a certain extent on a road section, whereas they're still having to make sure we get where we need to be at the right time. Maybe yeah, there's a lot to it and a lot of organization both in the build up and throughout the event, as well as calling the notes, helping out on recce.
fantastic. I mean, yeah, huge. Just a shout out to all of them. Unsung heroes, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I'm getting some. Yeah, I'm getting some stick in the comments. I've got to pronounce that rally in Wales. See, James and Diffan are ganging up on me. Okay, is it Ceredigion? Is that
I
rally?
thought I thought it was Ceredigion, but I might be wrong.
Ceredigion or Ceredigion? Whoever. Tell us who's got closest. Thank you, folks. You Welsh with your long words. Anyway,
But yeah, in answer to Difan's question about whether I fancy doing it, yeah,
yes,
doing rally Ceredigion, if that's how you pronounce it, was very much on. Oh, look, Jane says I'm right.
right, James, out. You're banned. No.
We'll take that. Um, so yeah, it was very much on my plan for this year because it is a round of the Asphalt Championship. But as I said, things are a little bit difficult with budget at the moment, so I do need to play it a little bit by ear. And yeah, fingers crossed. I would love to be there. It's certainly one that I would love to do, whether it's this year or next year.
Yeah, fantastic. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. And I'll visit as well, as long as you don't ask me to pronounce it again. Um, um, yeah, we just need to sort of let people be aware of where we can find you on the socials and how people can get involved with you when you want to go back rallying again. How can people find you and how can people get involved with
Um,
you going forward?
So you can find out more about my rallying on my website, which is ashleighmorris.com, ASHLEIGH. And I'm on all the main social channels. So Facebook, Ashleigh Morris Rallying, Twitter or X and Instagram, Ashleigh_Morris. You'll also find me on TikTok and Threads, but probably don't use them as much as I should.
Yeah, it's too many. That's great. So yes, folks, do go and check out everything that Ashleigh's doing and give us some support because we've been. I think you've been tagged in the comments. Thank you very much, James.
Lovely, thanks, James.
That's grand. Yeah, because I obviously came across you. I think it was firstly over on Facebook or Twitter. And yeah, we need support of British rallying and of you, of course, as well. So yes, folks, do go and get involved. That would be great. Very quickly, I'm just aware of the time. I want to talk quickly just about a few bits about general rallying, and again, the gender thing. I don't want to talk about it too much, but folks will probably be aware of people like Jade Pavey that I've mentioned before. She goes off, she does presenting and goes up Goodwood and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff with what she's doing. We know about, we've got there's like Louise Cook, she stepped back recently. Obviously, we all know about Michelle Mouton and Miss Aitken Walker, Louise Aitken Walker, who has very nice whiskey, by the way. It's very nice. At the level you're competing at, or that similar level, is there much female representation in rallying at the level that you're at? I mean, you mentioned another name earlier. But
There's not a lot, to be honest. I've actually found there does tend to be more up in Scotland. I'm not sure why that is, but when I've been doing the Scottish Rally Championship for a couple of years, there's usually four of us competing, like female drivers. So there's myself, there's Megan O'Kane, Nikki Addison, and Aileen Forrest. Um, and then both myself and Nikki have been doing the Asphalt Championship this year. But we're the only two female drivers. And then when I was doing the circuit rallying, it was mostly just myself and Kathy Stewart. Kay Thompson sometimes competes in the circuit rallies, but yeah, certainly very small numbers. If four is a good rally for female participation, that's not a lot out of 100+ cars. And when I did East Riding last year, there were 140 crews, I think, and I was the only female driver.
wow.
So yeah, so it is still really low. Co-driver seems to be better, but still pretty low compared to the number of like male participants.
Wow, I didn't realise it was that low. But it does go to show that if you are a female racer, or not the gender matters as we say, but if you're a female racer and you want to get involved with it, you can go and do it. Get involved. As you alluded to, it can be more cost effective than others, and yeah, go and
Yeah, and I
go and
think the
go and
the
give it a go.
rally community is really helpful. So, I think if anyone's interested and just thinks, oh, I don't know how to get started with this, like drop any of us a message. People are always happy to help people out. So, if anyone's got any questions, I'm always happy to help.
That's great to hear. That's excellent. And obviously, attitudes are changing towards females in motorsport across the board, which is
Yeah,
fantastic because it's been a closed shop, mainly due to people looking down their noses at females and not being as welcoming as
yeah.
things seem to be going. Things seem to be going in the right direction, which is great. No, good stuff. And very quickly, we need Rally GB back, don't we? I mean, we're going to talk. We're talking World Rally Championship here. It's one that we're all familiar with. It was one of the best events ever. I loved it, and we've all seen Colin McRae burning around. Was it Chester Racecourse? Wasn't it? I think it was. He was doing all the celebrations. We need it back, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. That's another one that was on the bucket list. And yeah, it's just greatly missed. And I think it, is not just for people in the sport, but that was an event that got people out that didn't go to any other rallies or maybe weren't as diehard fans. It got people going, got people talking about rallying. And yeah, it's just really sad with the heritage that we have as a country with motorsport and with rallying to not have that. Obviously, there was talk about having a round in Ireland, and then that didn't come to fruition, unfortunately. Um, Maybe closed roads are more of the answer than forests at this point. And obviously, we've been talking about Ceredigion and that it's around the European Rally Championship this year.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a good step forward in terms of putting the UK on a more international map again. So yeah, is there potential for that to be around at the WRC in the future or another event such as that? I'm not sure, but I don't know what the answer is, but it's definitely a big loss to the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the comments, there's been a few mentions of the ERC round, saying it's going to bring more crowds, new roads, and it's not far from Diffan's house by the looks of it. And James has said that we've got the ERC back this year, so let's go and support it. Absolutely. And if it can somehow morph into a round of the WRC, then I think TV needs to get behind it as well, and just
Yeah.
get it out there again because it used to be a highlight of the year watching it, and hopefully it can happen again. Very quick. Yes, we need to shout out. Yes, quick shout out to Abby Pulling and Lydia Walmsley, who have won recently. Females kicking the guys' backsides.
Yes, I did see that.
Good to see Abby Pulling, first ever winner in British F4 at Brands
Yeah,
Hatch, and
amazing.
Lydia Walmsley in the mini challenge, first podium. Great to see. Good to see. Yeah. We don't need segregation. Girls can kick the guys'
No,
backside.
exactly. That's why I think it's so important because, seeing those results does a lot more than, if they were just competing in, female only series.
Yeah.
So, and, I think one of the other sports that men and women do compete equally again is like equestrian sports. So I
Yes.
always think it's interesting that, if you watch the Olympics or something with equestrian, they are very mixed, the teams.
Mm.
So, a similar sport in a way, whereas you're not relying on your physical strength. It's the equipment, whereas that's a horse or a car. So yeah, I think it's maybe there's things we can learn from looking at other sports as well.
Absolutely, absolutely right. If there's opportunities, to get everyone mixed and competing together, then obviously we're all for it. And I think you're right. I think it is only those two sports. I think that are both genders competing at the same time. And we got a big shout out to Catherine Legg as well, who qualified for the Indy 500. But and then her engine blew, and that was very very sad.
Oh, I know.
But it was great to see and that has done a huge amount for female presence in IndyCar and in motorsport as well. So long may it continue. Obviously, I understand the W Series was a free drive essentially, and it's pushed the careers of a few people that we've had on here. People, like Carrie Schreiner and like Sabra Cook and people like that who owe their careers to it. But
Yeah, and
I think
you
everyone
can't.
would like to see it together, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you can't fault anyone for wanting to take a seat, that's free and is free seat time. But I'm just not sure that that's the way, it's how do we get people to invest in female talent in a mixed series rather than just female talent in a female only series?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a shop window to a point, but then when it comes to the next step, we've seen it with Jamie Chadwick, haven't we? She's had to go out, to the States, and there's nothing wrong with that because I'm a big fan of American racing, and she's had to go out to the States. But she's a three-time champion in a women-only series, and no one on this side of the pond has taken a punt on her, which is
Exactly.
not that it'd be taking a punt, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, surprising. So yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully we can see more ladies kicking guys' backsides again, which would be great. Good question from Diffan. I've actually got that on my notes. We're going to come to that in a moment because we're going to wind down. I'm aware of the time. Don't want to keep anyone too late. I mentioned Louise Aitken Walker's whiskey. Have you had any? Are you a whiskey drinker?
I haven't, unfortunately. But one of my sponsors from last year, 3 Brand, actually did all the packaging. And I'm not sure if you've seen it, but yeah, it was pretty cool if you looked at the design of the bottle and the box and everything. So
Yeah.
I can definitely vouch for the packaging, but unfortunately, I haven't tasted it myself.
Well, I can vouch for the whiskey because I tried some. It's very
Have
nice.
you?
Between us, we've got it covered. But that's great. And I need to contact Louise Aiken Walker, get her on for a chat. She's brilliant. Okay. Aside from rallying, I think there might be a hint behind you. Do you follow any other motorsports particularly closely, or?
As I said, I was a fan of F1 from when I was a kid, really. So I used to be like a huge fan of Jacques Villeneuve when I was little, and he was driving for Williams and stuff. And yeah, F1's something I've followed on and off through the years. I went through a phase probably not long before I started rally driving. Of I went to quite a few Grand Prix. So I went to Monaco, Singapore, Barcelona, Silverstone. But sadly, with the budget required for rallying, it doesn't always leave the money free to go to Grand Prix as well. But and the same with the time. Last year I did 18 rallies, I think, between driving and co-driving. So it doesn't always leave the time to watch other series as well. But certainly we'll always dip in and out of F1, and I'm also a massive fan of MotoGP. Yeah.
I'm a massive fan. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so it wasn't something I got into until about 10 years ago, maybe. But yeah, again, I've been to Silverstone quite a few times to see that. One time I was there and Rossi won, and it was just,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm jealous.
it was like quite late on in his career, so it wasn't, when he was winning all the time. It was a
Yeah.
bit unexpected.
Wow.
And yeah, that's something I'll never forget, really. So
Oh, you've seen Rossi win. I'm jealous.
yeah.
That's one thing I never saw. I went to Assen and he came past a couple of times leading, and I just went mental because I was a huge fan of his.
The thing is, like, everyone goes mental. You get the same response to Rossi at Silverstone as you would to like Lewis Hamilton in the F1.
Yeah.
It's like every race is a home race, isn't it? So
It's like, well, he's got his own grandstand every time. It's bright yellow and it's smoke and it's
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, I don't cover it much on the page because there's not much call for it, but oh, I love it. It's so good. It is very, very, very good. That and well, two boys. I've had James Toseland on here, and he's a top guy. Big fan of James Toseland. James Harmon, Formula E is worth a follow. James, are you a fan? If only,
We would
if
never
only,
guess.
if only you'd said so. No, absolutely right. If you love your close racing, definitely follow Formula E. Rallycross, is that something that you'd look at if you could? A bit of best of both, short and punchy.
I don't know, to be honest. At the moment, I'm very much focused on my rallying. So, yeah, rallycross definitely looks fun, but I think when it comes to, being short on budget, I think I'd rather kind of invest it all into my rallying. Again, I have thought about racing, but then I'm not sure that going around the same piece of tarmac for me has the same adrenaline as, going out there in a forest and, everything is coming at you. So, obviously, there's a place for all motorsport, as we said, but I think for me personally, rallying just holds that kind of special place.
Yeah, great stuff. That's fair enough. Oh, Jim McKendrick has said there should be call for MotoGP. Yes, absolutely right. There should be. Apparently, you're not allowed to like cars and bikes, but anyway, I do. Just to you mentioned Jacques Villeneuve for Williams stuff. Did you have any racing heroes when you were growing up in F1 or on the rally sort of scene? And do you have any favourites now? Not dropping anyone in in trouble.
Um, I think, yeah, when I was growing up, probably was like Jacques Villeneuve, also, when Michael Schumacher was at his peak. Um, I think in terms of racing, yeah, always love, like Daniel Ricciardo, people have got a bit more personality to them.
Yeah,
And, like when he was doing it, Kimi Räikkönen, people like that, because it can be too corporate and samey. And I think one of the
yeah,
things about motorsport is the personalities behind it that make you want to root for someone. Um, yeah, obviously from a rally perspective, my heroes would be Michelle Mouton, Louise Aitken Walker. And you've obviously Colin McRae, Sebastian Lowe, Sebastian Ogier, but I'm not saying anything different to what any other rally driver would say probably.
no, no, no. They're some absolute legends there, aren't they? As I mentioned in the start, I always followed Malcolm Wilson because he was in the yellow and blue pilot Michelin Escort, and I got to speak with him earlier this year, which was a huge thrill. You can see it on my face in the interview, but yeah, some fantastic names. Okay, two. Let's go for two more questions. Have you got a favorite? Have you got a favorite event to compete on, or a favorite stage, or is it just any of the
I,
closed road stuff?
I think Argyle's probably my favourite event,
Okay.
which is interesting because it was my first closed road rally in 2021, and at the end I was like, what am I doing? Because, it was really full on difficult event. It's very technical, twisty stages, but I've done it 3 times now and I've kind of, managed to improve each time I do it. And I just think being tight and twisty, it kind of suits my car, it suits my driving and better than maybe some of the kind of faster stages. And it's just, yeah, an incredible event. So I'm sad to be missing that one this year.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Oh, James Harmon has just said he liked Mikko Hirvonen. Yes, Mikko Hirvonen. He doesn't get mentioned often. But no, that's sort of great. It's those stages that you love. Okay, we're going to go for two more. I'm just going to throw one more question in here from Jim McKendrick. He says, "What do you?" Good phrasing. What do you think about the new hybrid rally cars? Should they be full milk float? I think yeah, that means electric, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I'm a bit unsure about current rally cars. I understand where they're going, but I was just wondering what you think about them. The WRC.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the idea of full electric rallying, to be honest, or full electric motorsport in general. I like the noise and the smells and that we get from petrol.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think maybe the new generation coming, starting out in it now might look at it different, having been brought up with electric cars. But for me, I would take, a current R5 over what we might end up with that's full electric in 10 years.
yeah, absolutely agree. I'm going to show my age. I love an Audi Quattro. Yes.
Oh,
Big
yes.
beefy one with noises and all that crazy, Group B stuff. But yeah, fantastic. That's good stuff. And yes, people are saying they can't stand electric. Well, yes, it is the way we're going, unfortunately. Okay, last question. If there was one rally car from the past or the present that you could get in and have a thump around a stage, is there one that sticks out in your mind as your favorite rally car that you'd love to get in, even if it
Mm.
was from way back? Is there one that you think that's the one that I want to have a go
I
in?
think I'd love to have a go of a Mark II Escort just because they're fun and, iconic and you could slide around. It's very different to what I'm used to with like front wheel drive. Of current cars, yeah, I would love to have a shot of a Rally 2 car, an R5, basically. Probably just on like a circuit rally because I think, it would be overly ambitious to jump into something like that straight away in a closed road rally. But yeah, if I could get my hands on one of them for a circuit rally, I would love that.
Yeah, fantastic. Just sort of quickly, I mean, if you could, where would be your next kind of step be? If there's anyone who wants to get involved and sponsor you, where might you be hoping to head for next?
I'd like to do some more of the asphalt championships. So obviously it's sort of the biggest tarmac championship in the country. I'd also like to at some point go back and do the Scottish Championship again because obviously gave it a go for a year or two. And yeah, I feel like I would like to go back and do some of those events again because that's where I sort of grew up and got a special affinity with that. But yeah, I'd also love to go and do some more in Europe. So going and doing that event in France was amazing. Rally Rome is one that's on my bucket list because I just love Rome as a city. So to go and do Rally Rome would be cool. So yeah, I guess if I could look to do some rounds at the European Championship at some point in the future, that would be amazing.
Fantastic. So, yeah, folks, if you know anyone who can get on board and get involved, who wants to branch out into Europe or just
Yeah,
get themselves noticed, then get in contact with Ashleigh, please, because that would be great to see. We'd love to
thank
see you back
you.
out there. I think that's a great place to end. We've run over a little bit, as we
Could,
always do
could
on
I
the.
just give a quick shout out to my current sponsors before we
Of course you
finish?
can. Let's
So,
do it.
massive thanks to Morris Lubricants. So, they've been sponsoring me, providing all my oils for more years than I could even count now. So, massive thanks to them. No relation, we just have the same surname. And then to Carbon Positive Motorsport. So this is actually my fourth year of partnering with Carbon Positive. They do all my offsetting for the rally car emissions, recce, travel, and I think it's so important that we continue to try to be sustainable in the sport. We spoke about all electric, but in the meantime, I think we need to do what we can with the cars that we're using at the moment. So massive thank you to Carbon Positive Motorsport. I've recently partnered with a company called By Catherine, who have a perfume called Petrol Head. So an apt fit there. So they also sponsored Joe Polly in racing. So yeah, massive shout out to them, and it's really nice to be partnering with like a female-led brand as well. And then also to Demon Tweaks because I'm on their sponsorship scheme again this year.
That's fantastic. There's some very, very good people you're involved with, and from the fans' point of view, huge thanks. I just want to echo that from the fans for getting people like Ashleigh out there and rallying. And while on the subject of Demon Tweaks, we should say very sad news with the passing of
Yeah.
Alan Mintrell recently. That was very, very sad. Who founded Demon Tweaks? So our thoughts with everyone.
Mhm.
But yeah, great to have them on board with you as well. So that's great. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for coming to join us. I want to say thank you to everyone in the comments. All the guys who have guys and girls who have tuned in and pitched in. It's always great to hear from you. We'll be back next week. We're going to announce another one. But in the meantime, Ashley, good luck with the house move, first and
Thank
foremost.
you. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we will be keeping track on of what you get up to in the future as and when you're able to get back out there. So yeah, thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Good night, everyone. We'll see you very soon.